Hello, world history students. This is Mr. Everton, and this is a video about what happened after World War I. We're going to talk a lot about the Treaty of Versailles and why it failed to create peace. The Treaty of Versailles was the treaty that ended World War I. The countries, I should say, who won World War I, specifically Britain, France, and the United States, but a bunch of others who they were allied with. But the most important three are Britain, France, and the United States. They all met in Paris, and they had a big conference called the Paris Peace Conference. And the two major things that they were trying to think about when they did this was how should they punish the people who lost the war, specifically Germany and Austria-Hungary and the Ottoman Empire, and how should they prevent future wars from happening? Because they all recognized that World War I, which they called the Great War, right? Because it was the only one that was on this scale up to that point. How are they going to keep there from being another Great War? Well, what came out of the Treaty of Versailles was that Germany ended up being punished extremely harshly. France, in particular, was really angry with Germany, blamed Germany for the war, said that Germany had done a lot to destroy French land and kill French people. And because of that, they got their way, and Germany was Germany was told to pay reparations. And reparations is when you pay money because you did something wrong and you're trying to make up for it, like a fine. And Germany had to pay $33 billion worth of reparations to France, which is a whole lot of money. Even back, it's even more back then. It's an insane amount of money for them to have asked Germany to pay. On the preventing future wars front, the Treaty of Versailles created what's called the League of Nations. This is a weak international organization where different countries work together in order to resolve conflicts and prevent future wars from happening. Other things they did to try to prevent future wars were reduce the size of Germany's military, take away German colonies, and there's others. My brain is tired. I'm sorry. Basically, they punished Germany and they tried to prevent future wars from happening at the same time. That's the Treaty of Versailles. Now, sometimes this is referred to as the end of empire, and it both is and is not the end of empire. So, one way that it is the end of empire is that in Europe, the Austro-Hungarian Empire stopped existing. Before the war, there was an Austro-Hungarian Empire and a Russian Empire and a German Empire. And now all of those empires are gone, and there's a Germany and there's a Soviet Union, but now there's Poland in between them. And Austria-Hungary, Austria is a country, Hungary is a country, Yugoslavia, Romania, Czechoslovakia are all countries. And this was all done in the name of what Woodrow Wilson, the US president, called self-determination. Self-determination is the idea that if you have a group of people who have a shared culture and living in the same place, they should be able to have a say in what their government is and who represents them. So Woodrow Wilson was like, well, we have Czechs and we need to have a place for the Czech people to live. And that's where Czechoslovakia came from. We've got Poles and we need a place for them to live. So that's why we have Poland, right? Now, this idea got applied differently in the Middle East. Because in the Middle East, the Ottoman Empire stopped existing. It had existed going way, way back to the beginning of this class, but now it's over, it's gone, and it's broken up into a bunch of independent countries, except they're not independent. So Turkey is independent. Turkey gets its independence. Egypt gets its independence. But Syria, Palestine, which is what today would be called Israel, Iraq, all of these places do not get their independence. They're what we call mandates. This is the mandate system where Britain and France said that the people who live in these places were not sophisticated yet enough, not civilized enough to be able to rule themselves, which is hilarious because this is, the center of Islamic civilization, which, these are the people who invented algebra. And we talked about Islamic cultural achievements in this class. And now the British and the French are saying well, you guys aren't quite ready to rule yourselves, which is, to me, absurd. And to the people of, the Middle East, also absurd. Okay, another way that it was not the end of empire was that India had to stay a colony of Great Britain. And they had fought for Great Britain, hoping that they would get some kind of self-control, and they didn't. And they were really mad about it. And this guy Gandhi and others in India began protesting and trying to push for India to gain its independence and for Great Britain to leave. Another country that was mad was Japan. Japan had industrialized, right? Japan had gone out and, made themselves a powerful country on the international stage, and they thought that they should be treated with respect. And at the Paris Peace Conference, they tried to insert into the treaty language that said that all races are equal, and the European countries wouldn't go for it. So Japan was really offended, and they were like, oh, these European countries think they're better than us. Cut to later, and you'll see that was bad. Should have just put the language in the treaty. I mean, it's fairly true, but, the Europeans were racist, so what are you going to do? Okay, finally, what was Germany like after the war? So the new Germany is no longer an empire. It's a democratic government called the Weimar Republic. In German, you pronounce a W with a V sound, Weimar Republic. You could also say Weimar Republic, and people would know what you meant. So Germany becomes a democracy. This is a picture of their Capitol building. It's called the Reichstag. And Germany's in all this debt, right? They went into debt already because war is expensive. And now on top of all the money they spent on the war, they owe reparations payments to France. And they don't know how to do that. And so the Weimar government starts printing money, and they print more and more money. And when you print money, that means there's a lot more money, but the money becomes worth less. If there's more money, the value of the money goes down. This is called inflation. And so this man right here has a wheelbarrow full of German currency. They're called Deutschmarks. No, they're just called marks. He has a wheelbarrow full of marks, and he's like literally headed to the store to buy bread. There's lots of pictures. I'll probably show you some in class of people doing hilarious things with German currency because it became valueless, basically. Like, it was cheaper to burn your money than it was to use your money to buy firewood, is a famous example. And when things like that happen, it means that people lose faith in the government. And Germans didn't have faith in the Weimar government. Their economy was struggling. There was low employment, which means people didn't have jobs. There wasn't enough food to eat, and people were very angry. And they felt like they were being punished for something that wasn't their fault. Like World War I we talked about the causes of World War I, and they were complicated. And it wasn't just Germany that made it happen. Germany was part of it, but not the only part. And, like Britain and France were involved in creating World War I. So it seems unfair, right? Into this environment, when people are really unhappy and when the government isn't taking care of them, people turn to extremist political parties. They turn to people who will make them feel better. Into this environment in Weimar Germany in the 1920s, a new political party is formed called the National Socialist German Workers' Party, or Nazis for short. This is an extremist political party that became incredibly popular during this time period. And yeah, that's where Nazis came from. So you should now be able to finish your AIM question. And that AIM question is, why didn't the Treaty of Versailles create a lasting peace? Thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you soon.